good evening everyone, and welcome to Monday Night Live. I'm Tanja from Tanja Kraus Horsemanship, and you're joining me tonight on our Monday Night Live session. And tonight's session is all about should I start my own horse under saddle? It's a question that I get asked all the time. It's something that comes up a lot in horsey circles, I guess. And it's one of those things that I'm really happy to sit down and have a chat about, because I'm really passionate about starting young horses under saddle and starting them correctly. It's how I got my start, I guess you'd say, into the world of being a horsemanship practitioner. I started out starting young horses under saddle professionally, and then I kind of moved on to teaching clinics and going beyond the initial starting process. But starting was my favorite thing, or is one of my favorite things to do. And I always want to make sure that I'm putting the horse's best interests at heart. So it's a topic that's really close to me, and one that I'm really, really passionate about. So I'm hoping that I can share with you some of the questions that you can ask yourself if it's something that you're considering. If you've got young horses, and hopefully give you a few different options about how you can make that decision and choose the best path that is going to complement your horse and that is going to suit you as well. So probably the number one thing that I want to talk about in regards to starting our own horses under saddle is making sure that we're doing it for the right reasons, and understanding that your horse's start under saddle is arguably one of the most important parts of his life. It's one of the most important experiences that he's ever going to have, and it's the experience that is going to set him up for all of his experience in the future under saddle. So it's really, really important, and I really believe that a lot of our horses that end up at sales, or getting deemed dangerous, or have problems later on in life, I really believe that oftentimes it can be traced back to their start. And I'm not saying that they I'm not saying it's the be all and end all. I'm not saying that if a horse has had a bad start that they can't come through it. But what I'm saying is it worth the risk? What I'm saying is that's a question that you need to ask yourself in regards to the start. Is it worth risking? Are you just wanting to start your horse? Are you winging it kind of thing? Is there a risk that it's going to be a negative experience for your horse? And if so, is that worth it? Is it worth a horse having a negative experience, and potentially, especially if you're going to on-sell those horses, or you expect other people to ride them, is it worth them having a negative experience that is going to be their fallback for a really long time? When they start to get under stress, under saddle, the horses will revert back to, or start displaying initial behaviors, initial learnt behaviors, if you like. So let's say that you've started a horse under saddle and he has a little bit of a negative experience being started under saddle, and one of the things that he does when he's having that negative experience is he bucks. So what I'm saying in that regard is, if he bucks under saddle, it doesn't mean that he's going to buck forever. But it means that there's a chance that every time he has a negative experience under saddle and he doesn't know what to do, that potentially he's going to revert back to that bucking. Potentially he's going to revert back to that learned behavior. So that's what we need to consider first and foremost when we're talking about starting our horses under saddle is it worth the risk? Am I wanting to do it for the right reasons? Am I choosing to do it myself for the right reasons? Now, I don't believe that finance is a right reason. I believe that if you found yourself with a young horse you've bred a young horse, you have bought a young horse, you've taken on a young horse by saying yes to someone that's offered you a young horse, I believe that you need to understand that part of owning a young horse is the financial obligations that come with training that young horse. So unless you've got the money to get them started correctly under saddle and continue with their ongoing education, then a young horse isn't the right choice for you. So that'll be covered more in a what horse do I choose kind of a video. But that's something that we definitely need to consider. So finance is definitely not an option. If you're saying, I'm going to start my horse under saddle myself because I can't afford to send it somewhere, then I think you need to reconsider owning a young horse. And that may sound a little harsh, but that's the facts within it. You know, if you've taken on a young horse or got a young horse and you don't have the money, then I think that you may need to consider rehoming that young horse, because part of owning a young horse is those responsibilities of getting them professionally started and continuing their education by getting lessons or going to clinics or going to education sessions or whatever it is. The second thing that we need to ask ourselves in regards to starting our horses under saddle is why I want to do it myself. So this comes up a lot, and I know that I meet a lot of people who have the most kindest and greatest intention in the world, and they genuinely want to experience this experience, I guess. They want to experience starting their young horse together. They want to do it. They want their horse to have them do it, but it's coming from an emotional, romantic kind of a place inside. So it's this whimsical, I want to start him or her, and you know, I'm not trying to be derogatory. Please don't feel like I'm being derogatory, but what I'm trying to talk about is the motivation behind it. So if the motivation behind you wanting to start your horse under saddle is a romantic one, or one where you feel like, oh, you know, I just think it'd be a really great experience for us to do it together. If you're coming from that place, then I don't think that it's a good enough reason to want to start your horse under saddle. Is it a great experience? Yes. Is it worth your horse's entire ridden career to have you experience starting your horse under saddle because you've rescued him or you've bred him or whatever it is, and you've decided, you know, I really want to experience this with my horse. I don't think that that's a good enough reason. If it's coming from that place where it's almost a selfish motivation. Basically, you're saying, oh, I really want to do that. It's something I've always wanted to do. I just want to start one. You know, I don't think that's a good enough reason to be starting your horse. The next reason that we want to start our horses often is one of continuing education. If your reason behind wanting to start a horse is your continued education, do I think it's a good idea? Yes. Do I think you need to make sure that you have the absolute right team and right methodology behind you so both you and the horse are taken care of during the process? Yes, I do. So I'm all for people continuing education. I obviously myself teach colt starting clinics. You know, we did one in January this year, and all of the participants, the feedback that they gave me after that clinic was a huge jump in their own personal skill level, their own personal understanding of the horse, their own personal understanding of their horsemanship skills, and improvement in their horsemanship skills. You know, it blew us out of the water what was achieved over that colt starting. So do I think that it's worth wanting to start your own horse to further your own education? Yes, I do. But the disclaimer on that is that if you're wanting to further your own education, I don't think you should be using your horse as an experiment. I think you need to make sure that you've got a team on board or someone, a mentor on board that is helping you every single step of the way. So that's a good enough reason for me to say, yep, sure, I think you should start your own horse under saddle with obviously all of these checklists, which we're gonna go through shortly. The next reason is obviously if you are wanting to start your horses under saddle because you are a breeder, you have a stud farm, you know that you're going to have multiple young horses coming through over the years, and you would like to gain the skills to ensure that all of your youngsters are being started the same way. You can start the starting process when they're born, basically. Do I think this is a good enough reason to want to start your own horse under saddle? Yes, I do, because what you're wanting to do is learn those skills and continue developing those skills and applying those skills to ongoing horses. The next reason, of course, is professional colt starters or clinicians or teachers or coaches. Do I think that you should experience starting your own horse under saddle if you're a coach or you're a clinician or you're a professional colt starter? Obviously, yes. Again, I think that if you're just learning how to start horses under saddle or you're just dipping your toe in the water of how to start horses under saddle, then I think that you need to make sure that you have a mentor who is experienced in starting young horses. It's not just about, I speak to so many people, I meet so many people, and this is such a delicate subject, so you can see my hesitation because I'm trying to present this information in a way that is confrontational enough to make us really think about what we're doing, but not so confrontational that you just log off the video because you don't want to hear the negatives surrounding starting your own horse. I'm so passionate. It's basically every single weekend when I teach a clinic, I meet a horse that has unfortunately been started incorrectly, and perhaps with the best intentions, and I see the ramifications of that day after day, month after month, and year after year on those horses. I see poor starts reflected in horses as 3 years down the track, 5 years down the track, 10 years down the track. So it's super vital that we really make sure that we're choosing the right people to help us start our horses under saddle, and we're choosing the right plan and all that sort of stuff. So that is the initial breakdown of asking yourself the question and really delving into, why do I want to start this horse myself and not send it away to someone who is a professional, who does it for a living, and, has those many horses started under their belt, so to speak, many experience of starting different horses. So moving beyond the emotion. If it is a genuine goal that you would like to achieve, so if it's a genuine thing where you are looking to further your own skills or you're looking to further your own education, then that is how we need to approach it. So if you think about starting your young horse under saddle and you think, yep, that's something I would like to do, and I definitely want to hone my skills and I want to improve myself and all that sort of stuff, then we need to sit down and start mapping out a set of skills that you personally need to have. It would sort of like starting a young horse under saddle would be like someone saying, I would really love to ride in the Olympics. I would really love to ride Grand Prix in the Olympics. You wouldn't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to book that next week. I'm going to go and ride at the Olympics. What you would have to do is approach it and plan it and have a look at how many years it takes to develop the skills required, how many years it takes to develop the knowledge required, how many years it takes to develop the feel that's required to ride a horse that's like that. And you would practice on horses that already had Grand Prix maneuvers. You would practice on schoolmasters and you would get your own skills at a certain level before you would even think about training a Grand Prix horse. So you can see that that's split into two different categories. It's the same when it comes to starting horses under saddle. You don't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to start my horse under saddle today, because you aren't going to have the skills required to train a young horse. They're a completely different animal. They're a completely different set of skills required to bring a young horse on correctly than retraining a horse or training a horse that has already got skills under their belt, that has been started under saddle for months or years or what have you. So if it's a genuine goal that you would like to achieve, then it's time to sit down and actually think about, okay, what skills do I need to have? What experience, realistically, what experience do I have with young horses? What experience do I have with my own, experienced horses? What experience do I have with troubled horses? How good am I at coming up with plans on the spot? How good am I at adjusting to a situation when a horse throws a curveball at me? Because when it comes to an experienced horse throwing a curveball at you, most of the time, or a lot of the time, you're probably pretty safe in that situation, because an experienced horse is probably just not going to do what you ask him to do. A young horse, when put into a pressure situation that he doesn't understand, is potentially going to have any number of reactions. He's potentially going to rear or kick or strike or bite or buck or bolt or do something like that. An experienced horse is just going to maybe stand there or swish his tail and go, I don't know what you want, so I'm not going to do it. But a young horse is going to go, oh no, I don't know what you want. I need to get away from this situation. So you're dealing with a completely different ball game. So I'm not going to go into the full checklist this evening of everything that I would do to make sure that you are ready for starting a horse. But some of the questions that I do ask people, for example, we've got a Colt Start course coming up in January that I'm running. It's a 2-week course. And those people have been sent information kits about applying to do that course with me. And some of the questions on that kit are, can you physically, so are you physically capable of walking on a horse, trotting on a horse, cantering on a horse, and dealing with a curveball on a horse comfortably? And are you physically balanced and not using your hands or the horse's head to balance on? So that would be my initial question, is if you're sort of riding an experienced horse and you go out on a trail ride and he does one little step to the side and you fall off, then your balance probably isn't what you need to start a young horse under saddle. If you're walking, trotting and cantering a horse and you're gripping onto the saddle and you're gripping with your hands to try and balance to make sure that you're not falling off an experienced horse, then your level of balance or your physical capability isn't what is required on a young horse. Because if you grip and hold on a young horse, you are going to bother them, you're going to scare them, and you're going to create a whole series of issues of their own. So can you physically walk, trot, canter, and deal with any little kerfuffles that your experienced horse throws at you? That's my first question. My second question is, can you mentally walk, trot, canter, and handle any of those little kerfuffles that your horse throws at you? And what I mean by mentally is, and I'm not saying you have to be, the bravest person out there. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get worried or scared, but I am saying that if you get on an experienced horse and you can't walk, trot, and canter with confidence, then starting a young horse under saddle is not in your immediate future, or shouldn't be in your immediate future. I've met people that do it, and it's not recommended. That young horse is going to be looking to you for confidence. He's going to be looking to you for what to do. He's going to be looking to you and mimicking your body language. So if he feels that you get nervous or overly nervous, I start a lot of horses under saddle, and I'm not going to say that I don't get nervous, because I would be crazy not to get nervous when I'm sitting on a horse for the very first time in its entire life. But those nerves don't affect me mentally. They don't cause me to make bad decisions mentally, like gripping onto the horse or grabbing or anything like that, doing any sharp motions, and they don't mentally affect me in terms of my decision-making process. So are you able to physically and mentally walk, trot, and canter and handle any little sticky situations that your experienced horse might throw at you? That's my questions to start with. The next level of this is, can you overcome sticky situations? And what I mean by can you overcome sticky situations is not, are you able to just sit a buck or are you able to sit a pig root? It's not just about your physical ability to sit on the horse. It's about your mental ability to make decisions during that physical turmoil and help the horse through the situation. If you're going to just go, I'm out, I don't know what to do, throw your hands up in the air or hang on for life, then you probably aren't in a position to be starting your young horse under saddle, because your young horse is going to get into a sticky situation and look to you and say, what do I do? Tell me what to do. And if you mentally freeze and go, I don't know what to do, then you're going to set yourself up for failure. So you need to be able to manage you need to be able to manage sticky situations, not by just sitting through them, but giving the horse ways that he can manage himself out of those sticky situations without doing all of those undesirable behaviors that we don't like bucking and bolting and all that kind of stuff. Now that we've got through the initial prerequisites, I guess, the prerequisite questions that I would ask anyone before they decide to start their own horse under saddle, my next question is, do you have a plan? When I run a 14-day Colt Start course, like the one I ran in January and like the one that I've got coming up in January, we have a booklet and we have a series of pages in that booklet, and there's checklists on all of those pages. The checklists are for us and for the horse to be as confident and comfortable with each other as we possibly can. So some of the exercises are about developing the relationship. Some of them are about building confidence. Some of them are about building trust. Some of them are about us being able to read the horse's body language and decide, is the horse ready for the next step? So they're what I call my green light questions. So I've got a series of 10 skills, for example, that we do online, and every time we do a particular exercise, we say to ourselves, is that a green light or is it a red light? And I'm standing there coaching everyone and saying, this is what a red light looks like, this is what a green light looks like. And because we're in a group situation, we're very fortunate to be able to look at each other's horses and learn. So then when we go home, we're able to go, oh, my horse didn't do that at the clinic, but, that's what Jerry's horse looked like, and I know that that's not a green light. So being able to observe multiple horses and have the experience to observe multiple horses and decide, yes, that's a green light, no, that's a red light, I need to keep working to get my green light. So do you have a plan? And just as an example, and everyone's got a different plan, like you approach multiple trainers and they're all going to have a different plan. I'm not saying that, I've got the Bible of Colt starting or anything like that. What I have is a series of exercises and skills and, processes that I go through, which I believe keep me and the horse, the minute that I make that decision to put my foot in that stirrup and put my bum in that saddle for the very first time, I know, cross my heart and hope to die, I know that I have done every single thing that I possibly can to get that horse ready for this moment and get myself ready for this moment. If there's anything in the preceding drills that I've done that I've gone, maybe he's not ready, there's my red light. That's where I get to say to myself, you know what, Tanya, let's work a little bit longer on this and make sure the horse is giving me a green light. It's got nothing to do with being able to do the exercises, okay? It's not, I've done this talk before on a Monday Night Live where I spoke about a series of 10 exercises. I think it must have been in a confidence building one or something. And I did this talk and someone emailed me and said, can I have the 10 exercises that I need to do? And I said, you know, it's not just about the exercises. It's not about saying, yeah, my horse laterally bends. Yeah, my horse does a hindquarter yield. Yeah, my horse lunges. Yeah, my horse backs up. It's not about the maneuvers. The maneuvers are the pathway that you use to be able to make decisions as to, well, how's he looking in that back up? Is there brace? Is there resistance? Is there a lack of confidence? If there's a lack of confidence in the back up, I'm not getting on him. Is he braced in the bend? I'm not getting on him. I see so many horses that you know, they can bend laterally. Yeah, sure, they're bending, but they're braced, they're resistant. I'm not riding that. And that's just part of my process. So I have a plan and a step-by-step approach where I'm saying to myself, can the horse do the 10 building a citizen exercises? Can the horse do the 10 ground exercises? Can the horse do the 10 liberty exercises? Can the horse do, you know, the primary exercises? Can the horse do the confidence and trust exercises? If all of those, and there's probably 10 in each of those, so we're talking 50 processes before I get on a horse. If the horse is giving me green lights through all of those processes that are designed to build his confidence, but they're also designed to show me whether he's ready or not, that's when I make that decision. You know, do you have a plan like that? Do you have some kind of list that you're following that you're saying to yourself, is the horse ready to ride? Or are you just winging it? Are you just putting the saddle on, doing a couple of circles and going, oh, he looks okay, I'll sit on him? You know, that's not starting a horse under saddle. That is stealing a ride, and that is luck if you get away with it. And many, many people do. I've met so many people that have gotten away with it. It's not funny, but somewhere along the line, something goes awry normally. Something pops because there's a hole in the foundation training of that horse. Okay? So do you have a plan to follow? Now, those 50 things that I just spoke about, they're all about making sure that I and the horse are ready to I'm ready to get on. The horse is ready to be mounted. What are you going to do then? What are you going to do after you've sat on the horse? Because I meet so many people that are then going to me, oh no, I've sat on him and walked around, so, you know, he's started now. I just ride him like he's a normal horse. Doesn't work that way. A horse doesn't come with the left rein turning button. He doesn't come with the right rein turning button. He doesn't come with the stop button. He doesn't come with the go button. You're responsible for teaching him all of those things. So not only do you need to have a plan for preparing the horse to be mounted and getting him confident in being mounted, you then need to have a plan for how are you going to teach this horse to be ridden? How are you going to teach him those cues and signals? How are you going to teach him how to come off the leg? How are you going to teach him how to come off the rein? How are you going to teach him how to go forward confidently? How are you going to teach him to stop? How are you going to teach him to turn on the forehand? Are you going to teach him to turn on the haunches? Do you have a plan that you're following so your horse's foundation is solid? Do you have a plan that tells you, yes, I can maneuver every single body part of the horse and I'm confident to move on to the next thing? Once again, the colt starting process is not about you. It's about the horse having the best possible start to his ridden career. So no matter what happens during his ridden life, whether he must get sold or whether he gets moved on, he doesn't become trouble for the next person. Because whilst you've experienced you know, a relationship with this horse and you kind of go, oh yeah, you know, he kicks up a bit when this happens because, you know, when I started him, the canter wasn't so great and then he kicks up, he's not real confident. The next person might say, he kicks up in the canter, I'm getting rid of him. I don't want my kid falling off that. I don't want my husband falling off that. I don't want my wife falling off that. So your horse all of a sudden finds himself in the sales because he's got a little kick-up problem in the canter that you didn't address when you were starting him under saddle. You didn't get the lack of confidence out of him. So there's multiple ways to start your horse under saddle. One of the ways is obviously doing it all yourself, which I don't recommend unless you're a professional, unless you're unless you're a professional that has started multiple horses under saddle. I don't recommend that you start your own horses under saddle. If you're someone that started, and I don't really like to put a number on it, but, if you've started 5 horses over the last 40 years, then I still wouldn't recommend that you start your own horse under saddle, because I don't think that having those experiences so far apart, that's one horse over every 12 years. I just don't think that's enough experience to make sure that we're able to support the horse. For me, the colt starting process is all about the horse. It's not about the rider. It's not about me being able to have this accolade of like, oh, I started that horse and I've done that and I've done that. It's not about me having bragging rights. For me, it's all about setting the horse up for his ridden career. So if you don't have experience, then going out and doing it on your own is not something that I would recommend. The next option is starting your horse under saddle yourself and using an instructor that comes on a regular basis. So once a week, or taking your horse to an instructor once a week, whichever works. Again, if you're not an experienced starter and your instructor isn't an experienced starter, and even if your instructor is an experienced starter, a once a week deal or a couple of times a week deal is again not something that I would recommend, because every single day when you start a colt, it is a different day. They could throw anything at you, and if it's one of those days where your instructor isn't there, then potentially, or if your instructor isn't proficient or experienced in starting young horses and they throw something that they don't understand, then it's too late. You can't fix it on the spot because you don't have the skills. So if your coach is an experienced starter and you've got multiple starts under your belt, then yeah, maybe a once a week thing where you've got the eyes on the ground, maybe that's something that is an option. But if you're not experienced in young horse starting, and I don't mean experienced rider, I mean I meet people all the time that have been riding for 50 years, and I take nothing away from them. Riding for decades and decades is a skill within itself, but young horses is a completely different skill set. I can't convey how passionate I am about being careful around young horses, because it is just so important you're setting them up for life. So your second option there with the once a week visit to a coach or whatever, again, not a great option, because I think you need to have your eyes on the ground all the time, especially if you don't have the experience. And when you're choosing a mentor or a coach, don't just choose your normal riding instructor because you want someone there in case something goes wrong. Have someone there that knows how to fix stuff when it goes wrong and knows how to see stuff before it goes wrong, so your horse gets supported through it. So choose a mentor that is proficient in starting horses under saddle. The next option is having a coach or an instructor or a starter or whatever visit you every day, or you take the horse to them every day. This is a pretty good option if the mentor that you've chosen is experienced in starting horses under saddle, and if you want to go to the trouble, or they want to go to the trouble of doing the transit thing, then absolutely, if you can have eyes on the ground every day, then starting a horse under saddle is potentially an option that you can begin to explore if you take all the stuff that we spoke about at the beginning of this video into consideration as well. It's not just about saying, oh cool, Tanya said if I had a coach that we're good to go. That's not what I'm saying at all. You still need to have the experience with young horses. You still need to have the skill set when it comes to young horses. The next option, of course, is starting a horse at a colt starting course. And I think this is a really good option for a lot of people. As I said, my courses personally, I have a little bit of a checklist or an information kit that I send out prior to my courses. And it's a little bit of an application form, if you like. So the application process is just to ensure that you have the skill set that is required, that I believe is required for my starting. Like I said, I don't have the Bible on starting colts under saddle, but I have done a lot of horses under saddle, and I do have a pretty comprehensive series of processes that I go through for the rider and for the horse. So you know, starting a horse under saddle under the watchful eyes of an experienced colt starter at a clinic, in a clinic situation, I think is a really good option. And there's quite a few clinics starting to come up around now, all around our country. I know there's plenty in the United States. There's always been a lot in the United States. But here in Australia, I know that we are seeing a lot of colt starting clinics pop up, and I would just... The only thing I would say, if you are considering going to a clinic, that you get information about how the itinerary is going to work, and all of the stuff that we spoke about at the start of this video. You know, does the coach have a plan? Does the coach have prerequisite at the clinic? Does the coach have a series of checklists that he's going to take you through to make sure the horse is ready? Throwing a saddle on a horse and looking at it and doing a couple of circles and going, oh, he's quiet enough, he's ready to go, that's not starting a horse under saddle. That's setting a horse up for failure, unfortunately, and failure that I've seen time and time again. The final option, of course, is sending your horse away to be started under saddle. And there's lots of different options in regards to multiple combinations of these. So, you know, like I think I've already said, a coach visiting you, or you visiting a coach, or maybe you sending a horse to get started, but they might let you visit once or twice a week, or maybe they're going to ask you to wait till the end and then come and ride it. Whatever the situation is, you know, sending your horse away to have a professional start it is definitely always a really good option in regards to setting the horse up for success. And choosing your professional, again, refer to everything that we spoke about at the beginning of this video. You know, do they have a plan? Do they go through checklists? Are they able to adjust the plan to the horse? It's not just about having a checklist. You know, I think I mentioned earlier that people email me all the time and say, oh, what are those 10 ground things? What are the citizen things? What are the liberty things? What are what are these checklists? You know, send it through to me so I can make sure that it's done. And I say, well, it's not just about you being able to sit in the paddock and tick off boxes and say, yep, my horse laterally bends. It's about watching the body language of the horse, and it's about ensuring that the horse is confident during the whole entire process. I don't want to shut a horse down, and I certainly don't want to leave holes in his foundation. So once I move beyond the confidence phase of starting a horse under saddle, then I need to start to move to the education phase and start to consider, what is it that this horse needs and what goes where? What do I do first? Do I do a hindquarter yield first? Do I do a lateral bend first? Do I go forward first, or do I go backwards? Do I trot and canter first on the first day? Do I leave that for another day? I don't know. You know, these are the questions that we need to be able to answer ourselves to make sure that we're setting ourselves, and again, primarily our horses, up for the best possible start that they can. So I hope that this live gave you a few insights into starting a horse under saddle. I hope it gave you some information and helped you maybe make a decision, or helped you in regards to some of the questions that you should be able to ask either yourself or your coach or your mentor or the person who's going to start your horse. And let's get those horses out there started under the right conditions, because when they are started under the right conditions, it stays with them for life. You know, I was only having a conversation this evening with a good friend who I have started quite a few horses for, and she was saying we were sort of talking about two different ponies, and one of them I had started, and she said, you know, time and time again, the start in this pony is reflected in the pony's actions. You know, she's a good pony, she's good around kids, she's good to ride, she's, you know, she's got this really solid foundation. And yet another pony that had come through even a riding school situation or an educational situation was showing some holes in their foundational work. So it's vital to know that those foundations have been put in your horses and they've been put in there solid. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to inbox me. If you know anyone who might be interested in this live, please feel free to share it on your timeline or share it in any groups that you find might be interested. If anyone would like any information on the Colt Start that I'm holding in January, it is in the Coffs Harbour, New South Wales, Australia region. So in Australia and on the East Coast. If anyone's wanting information about that, then feel free to send me a private message and I can send you an information kit about it. So please feel free to contact me if you have any information or if you'd like to share your stories. I hope everyone got some great information out of this live. If there's anything in the future that you would like to hear me talk about, please send me a private message and I will try and get it on our Monday night live shows. And the replay of this video will be up on our Facebook page for the next week or so, and then after that it will be on our YouTube channel. If you search Tanja Kraus Horsemanship on YouTube, you will find a lot of our replays of our previous Monday night lives, which cover a broad range of topics. I hope everyone had a great weekend with their ponies. I know we did at the TKH Christmas party and at the launch of Joni, Not Just a Pony, our kids book. Thank you to everyone who joined us for the launch party and the TKH Christmas party. I hope everyone else had a great weekend with their horses, and I hope you have a great week. I will see you next Monday or on the Gold Coast this weekend.